My wife's sister ruined my life with one lie. Everyone believed her. Years later, her own drunken confession surfaced and the fallout destroyed her entire world. Hey Reddit, it's been a long time since I've posted anything, but I guess I just need to get this off my chest. A few years back, my entire life got wrecked. Over a lie, a really bad one. I lost everything because of it. Now, years later, things are different. Better, I guess. I'm not here for pity or attention, just to share what happened and maybe remind a few people that sometimes the truth takes its sweet time showing up. I remember that night clear as day, Sunday dinner at my wife's parents' house. Her mom, Eloise, was setting the table like we were hosting a royal banquet, and her dad kept yelling from the living room about the game. It was normal, too normal for what was about to happen. Scarlett's family always had this habit of being too involved in everything. Every argument, every decision, even what brand of laundry soap we used somehow became a family discussion. And her sister Alice was the worst at it, always in our space. She'd drop by without calling, open our fridge like she lived there, and act like I was invisible until it suited her. At first, I thought she was just immature. She'd tease me sometimes, call me the quiet husband, make little jokes that felt off. Once she came into our home office to borrow tape, but she stayed 20 minutes chit-chatting, getting touchy. I told her to knock it off. She didn't like that. Scarlett said, "She's just lonely. Don't take it personally." Big mistake. Anyway, that night the whole family gathered. Her brothers Ben and Peter were already a few beers deep. Alice sat across from me, barely saying a word, just picking at her food. I didn't think much of it until she suddenly put her fork down real slow and said, "I have to tell you all something." Everyone went quiet. Scarlett leaned in, concerned. "What is it?" Alice's eyes started watering instantly, like she'd been rehearsing. I didn't want to say anything because I was scared, but Adrian hurt me. The room froze. I blinked. "What?" She sniffed hard, shaking her head like she couldn't believe she was saying it. He forced himself on me a few months ago. I didn't want to believe it myself, but I'm pregnant and it's his. Everything stopped moving for a second, like time folded in on itself, then it exploded. Scarlett shot up from her chair so fast it fell over. "You're disgusting," she screamed, and before I could say a word, her hand came across my face so hard my ears rang. The whole table jumped. Her brothers were already on their feet, yelling, cursing. "Are you kidding me?" I said, backing away, hands up. "That's not true. She's lying." But nobody heard me. Nobody wanted to. Alice covered her face like she was ashamed, crying hard now, full-blown shaking. "I didn't want to ruin your marriage," she said between sobs, "but I couldn't live with it anymore." Scarlett's mom gasped and started crying too. "How could you, Adrian?" "Because I didn't," I shouted. "This is insane." Ben grabbed me by the collar and shoved me against the wall. "You're lucky we don't kill you right now," he said through his teeth. Peter was filming on his phone, yelling something about making sure everyone sees the kind of man you are. I kept trying to talk, but my voice disappeared under their noise. Scarlett wouldn't even look at me. She was crying, shaking, repeating, "I trusted you," over and over like a broken record. Alice's crocodile tears kept flowing. She even started apologizing to Scarlett. It was such a disgusting performance that for a second, I thought maybe I was the crazy one for seeing through it. Eloise started yelling for someone to call the police. I heard sirens a few minutes later, and by then, the neighbors had gathered outside. Ben still had me pinned against the wall, spitting threats in my face. The cops came in yelling for everyone to back off. Ben let go. I stumbled, face burning, ears ringing, heart about to explode. I tried to explain to the officers, but it didn't matter. Alice was sitting on the couch crying into her hands, repeating the same thing. He forced me. They asked if I wanted to say anything. I just stared at her. She couldn't even look me in the eye. They cuffed me for everyone's safety. As they dragged me out, I caught a glimpse of Scarlett standing by the stairs, crying quietly. Not once did she ask me if it was true. Not once did she say, "Wait, let's hear him out." She just stood there, letting them take me away like some monster that had been living in her house all along. I heard the words "sick freak" and "lock him up." They pushed me into the car. The window glass showed my reflection, eyes wide, blood on my lip, shirt collar ripped. I didn't even recognize myself. At the station, they asked the same question 10 times in different ways. "Did you assault your sister-in-law?" "No," I said every time. Why would she make it up? I didn't have an answer. How do you explain crazy to people who already made up their minds? After hours of pointless talking, one of the officers finally said, "No charges tonight, but don't go near that family." They said the crowd outside was heated and put me in protective holding for safety reason. I sat on the hard bench, hands still trembling, the side of my face throbbing from Scarlett's slap. All I could think about was the look on Scarlett's face. Not anger, not even confusion, just certainty. That was the moment it hit me. My wife believed her sister without a second of hesitation, and nothing I said was ever going to change that. By morning they let me out. No charges, no paperwork, except a warning not to contact the victim. The officer handing me my stuff wouldn't even meet my eyes. My phone buzzed non-stop the second it was back in my hand. Notifications, missed calls, messages from numbers I didn't know. When I walked out of the station, I understood why. Someone had already leaked the video from the dinner. It was everywhere. Me sitting there in shock, Alice crying, Scarlett slapping me, Ben grabbing me, captions like, "Another predator exposed by his own family." Plastered under shaky footage, people adding hashtags I didn't even recognize. I opened one of the links. Comments pouring in by the hundreds. Gross, lock him up. Believe her. This is why women don't speak up. My face was being shared in threads like a wanted poster. The words alleged or accused were nowhere. In their eyes, I was already guilty. By lunch, fake screenshots started popping up. Someone had made fake DMs between me and Alice. My name, my old profile picture, fake messages. "I'll give you money if you don't tell Scarlett." "We can handle the baby quietly." Stuff I never wrote, but the timestamps looked real enough to people scrolling by. The next day, HR emailed me to come in for a neutral discussion. 2 people from HR, 1 from legal, no smiles. They said they wanted to hear my perspective. I told them flat out, it's not true. She's lying. There's no evidence because nothing happened. They nodded like they were listening, but didn't write anything down. One of them said, "You understand how serious this is, right?" Another said, "We're concerned about our company's reputation during this sensitive time." 2 days later, I got an email. Due to recent events, the company has decided to initiate separation to protect its brand. No severance, no reference letter, just gone. I'd spent 5 years at that job, never late once. Didn't matter. I went home and my landlord was waiting on the steps with a folded notice in his hand. "Hey man," he said, eyes on the ground. "Nothing personal. Tenants are nervous. I need you out by Friday." I stared at him. "You can't just," he cut me off. "I'm sorry, really." Then he walked away. I went to the window. My car was parked across the street. There was fresh spray paint across the side. Predator. I called Scarlett, straight to voicemail. Tried again. Blocked. Her mother had blocked me too. Even people we used to host at our apartment, neighbors, co-workers, casual friends, unfriended me like I was contagious. That night, a lawyer friend from college called. He said, "I can't represent you, but you should know your wife filed for a restraining order. Says, you're dangerous. You'll get papers soon." The next morning, I tried to log into my old social media to at least defend myself. I couldn't. Alice had posted her story, tagging me by name and using my full name in every caption. She wrote, "I'm scared. He's threatening me if I speak out." People were flooding her comments with hearts and, "You're so brave." I scrolled down and saw familiar names. Ben had commented, "Proud of you, sis. We'll keep you safe." Peter replied. Under someone else's comment, "We're dealing with it." That's when it clicked. One of them was feeding her the playbook, maybe both. They weren't just standing by her. They were pushing the narrative, shaping it, making sure I stayed the villain. I stared at my cracked phone screen. My face was everywhere. My job gone, my apartment gone, my wife gone. Every move I made being screenshot and twisted. People I'd helped move furniture, fix gutters, watch their kids. None of them even asked if it was true. And sitting there on the floor surrounded by trash bags I hadn't unpacked yet, I realized something I should have known the night she slapped me. My name was never coming back while I stayed here. Not my job, not my reputation, not my life. They wanted a villain. I'd been handed the role. I couldn't clear my name by shouting louder online. That only fed the fire. I couldn't go to court with no evidence. That would take years. If I stayed, I'd be a headline before the month was over. I needed to disappear. Not because I was guilty, but because they'd already buried me. That's when the plan started forming in my head. Not revenge, not some dramatic speech. Just vanish. Wipe myself off the grid. Clean. Every trace, leave nothing for them to cling to. And for the first time in days, a thought cut through the noise. Like a blade, they can't ruin a ghost. I shut my laptop, pulled out a notepad, started writing down every account, every subscription, every link to my name, crossed them off one by one. First, didn't tell anyone. I didn't post a goodbye. If the world wanted me gone so bad, I'd give them exactly what they asked for. The next morning, I stopped being Adrian. No note, no announcement. I just started erasing myself piece by piece. First went to social media. Every account, every old post, every picture. I didn't just deactivate them. I deleted them, changed recovery emails, wiped backups. My digital shadow went dark overnight. Then the bank accounts. I emptied what little I had left into cash orders under different names and closed the accounts, canceled subscriptions, sold my car for less than it was worth and took cash, even my phone number gone. New prepaid SIM, no contract, no trace. It was weirdly easy to vanish when no one wanted to hear from you anyway. By the end of the week, my apartment looked like it had never been lived in. Clothes bagged, furniture listed on Craigslist under fake profiles. People came and picked things up without questions. One guy hauled away my couch while scrolling through his phone, probably reading comments about the predator from the viral video and not even realizing it was me handing him the keys. I bought a one-way bus ticket with cash and left before dawn. No goodbye to anyone. The city slid away behind me like a bad dream. I didn't go far at first, just rode until the scenery changed from highways to empty fields, then to small towns nobody posted about. By the time I reached the coast, I was using a new name, Mike. Not Miles, not anything sentimental, just plain Mike. The name on an old work shirt I found at a thrift shop. The town I landed in was small and gray, tucked against the edge of the water like it was hiding from the world. No billboards, no chain stores, a harbor, full of worn boats and the smell of salt. I walked to the first diner I saw, ate a sandwich in silence, then asked the waitress if anyone was hiring. She pointed at the dock. That's how I ended up fixing boats for a man named Don. He didn't ask for paperwork, just handed me gloves and pointed at a cracked hull. Sand it down, patch it, keep your head down, he said. That was fine by me. Days started blending. Wake up in a rented room above an old supply shop. Work at the dock until my hands shaked. Eat at the diner. Sleep. Repeat. Nobody knew me. Nobody whispered. Nobody asked questions. For the first time in months, I wasn't a headline. I was just a guy, sanding wood. At night, I'd go to the library, a tiny one-room building that still used paper cards for checkouts, and use one of their old computers. I'd search my old name, not because I wanted to torture myself, but because I needed to know the scale of the lie. Every time there was more Alice on some podcast, telling her story about surviving a predator in her own family, her followers leaving comments like, "You're so strong and we believe you." Scarlett was nowhere. No statements, no posts, just silent. I started saving everything. Screenshots, posts, interviews, dates, times, usernames, all of it went into a private folder on an encrypted USB I kept on me. Not because I knew what I'd do with it, but because I couldn't stand the idea of the truth disappearing while their lie thrived. Work kept me busy. The routine dulled. The noise in my head. My hands got stronger, my skin rougher. People started recognizing me as Mike, the quiet guy at the dock who fixed things. It wasn't a life, not yet, but it was breathing room. Then one night after closing the library, I sat at the old computer scrolling through another thread about Alice. Same comments, same fake sympathy. I was about to log off when a new email appeared in the inbox I'd made for job hunting. No subject, line, no name, just 5 words. I know you didn't do it. I stared at it for a long time. No attachments, no links, just that sentence. My thumb hovered over the mouse. Reply or delete. For the first time since I left, my heart started racing again. I logged off without answering, walked back to my room in the cold wind off the harbor. The message burned into my head. Back in the room, the USB drive felt heavier than usual in my pocket. I sat on the edge of the bed, laptop open, the email still on the screen. My new name was Mike. My hands were calloused. My old life was gone. But whoever sent that message had just reminded me. My story wasn't. I stared at the blinking cursor, unsure whether to reply. After a while, I copied the address into a search bar. Nothing came up. It wasn't tied to anything public. My gut said trap, but curiosity won. I replied with one word. Who? A few minutes later, another message popped up. No text, just a link. A short, messy URL that didn't look like any social platform. I hovered over it for a full minute before opening it in a new tab using the library's computer. If someone was tracking me, they weren't getting my personal device. The page loaded slow, like it was fighting to stay alive. Just one video file sitting in the middle. No title, no watermark. I hit play. The camera was shaky like it had been recorded on a phone at a private party. Music thumping faintly in the background. People laughing off screen. And then Alice sitting on some couch, drink in hand, makeup smudged, eyes half lidded. She was laughing. The kind of laugh people use when they've had too much and think they're untouchable. You know what's funny? She slurred. Everyone actually believed me. Someone behind the camera asked what she meant. Alice leaned forward smiling, like it was a secret joke. Adrian, she said the guy I said assaulted me. I made it up. She even laughed about the pregnancy part. Said she made that up too. That it was just to make it stick. The person off screen laughed awkwardly. No way. Alice rolled her eyes. He looked at me like I was nothing, so I made him nothing. I told him he did it. And boom, gone. Everyone believed me, even Scarlett. Apostrophe, she snorted. Especially Scarlett. My stomach twisted. I replayed it 3 times just to be sure it wasn't deep fake or AI or edited. It was her voice, her laugh, her words. She confessed to destroying me like it was gossip. I downloaded the video instantly and copied it onto my encrypted drive. Then I checked the source. I checked the file details. It was hosted on a private drive link, and the owner tag showed Scarlett M right there in the metadata. My heart stopped. That meant my wife or ex-wife, whatever she was now, had the video all along. First sat there in silence, the fan from the computer humming like static in my skull. That meant my wife or ex-wife, whatever she was now, knew she'd had that clip, maybe for weeks, maybe months, and she hadn't said a word. At first, I thought she might be trying to frame me again somehow, but the clip was too damning to her sister. There was no benefit to her sending it unless she'd finally realized what really happened. I couldn't decide what stung more, knowing. I finally had proof, or realizing Scarlett had seen it before me and still said nothing. For the first time, I wasn't angry. I was cold, focused. Going public would have been messy. No one listens to long explanations online. They just scroll to the next drama. But Alice's whole world was built on image. The victim, the brave survivor, the influencer with a cause. I didn't need to destroy her. I just needed to show the truth to the right people. So I started small. I made 3 anonymous accounts using throwaway emails and VPNs. I uploaded the clip to a hidden folder on an encrypted cloud drive, sent out links labeled Private Proof Ray Alice, first to her fiancé. He was some real estate guy from her city, then to her employer, a nonprofit that posted daily about protecting survivors, and finally to a couple of smaller online forums that still discussed my case. Occasionally, within a week, the cracks appeared. Her fiancé deleted all their engagement photos. Then his page went private. Then her account disappeared for 2 days and came back with all comments turned off. She volunteered with a nonprofit and worked at a boutique. Both cut her loose without a word. I didn't smile, didn't celebrate, just watched it unfold from a library computer like a spectator at my own funeral. Every time I saw her image fade. From another platform, I saved the page. Date, time, screenshot. My folder grew, not because I needed more evidence. I just liked watching the truth finally leave footprints. About 2 weeks later, another email came in, this one from a different address, but the tone was the same. Short, careful, almost guilty. Subject, I know what she did. Message, please talk to me. There was no name, but I knew the wording. It was Scarlett. I could tell by how she capitalized her I always put periods after short sentences. She'd done it in every text we'd ever sent. I sat there staring at the screen again, hands hovering over the keyboard. She had my new email, somehow, which meant she'd been looking for me. For what? To apologize? To explain? To make herself feel better? I didn't reply. I read the message 3 times, then forwarded it to my private folder with everything else. The folder. That had become my real diary, my proof that I hadn't gone crazy, that this happened. Then I deleted the email chain from my inbox entirely. If she wanted to talk, she should have done it when I was bleeding and cuffed, not now that her world was shaking. I leaned back in the chair, the dull hum of the computer fan filling the silence again. For the first time, the truth wasn't buried, and this time, I wasn't going to let anyone twist it again. I closed the laptop, pocketed my USB, and left before the library lights flicked off. That night, I slept with the calm of someone who finally had proof and the certainty that he wasn't done yet. It was late afternoon when I heard the knock. Not the casual kind. This was steady, deliberate, like someone rehearsed it. When I opened the door, she was there, Scarlett, soaked, tired, clutching an umbrella that had given up halfway. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, maybe weeks. They didn't have that spark I used to know. I found you, she said softly, voice shaking just enough to sound real. It took me a long time. I didn't answer, just stared, letting her squirm under the silence. She swallowed. I hired someone, a private investigator. You changed your name, your everything, but you still use the same initials on an invoice and the same P.O. box on a supply receipt. That's how we tracked you down. Why are you here, Scarlett? First finally asked. Her voice cracked. Because I had to see you. I couldn't live with it anymore. I didn't move, didn't invite her in. She hesitated, then whispered. Please. I stepped aside. She entered slowly like she was afraid the floor would collapse under her weight. Scarlett stood in the middle of the room, dripping on the floor. You built a whole life here, she said quietly. You look different. People tend to change after being accused of something they didn't do, I replied flatly. She winced. I deserve that. No, you deserve worse, I said. But go on, tell me what you came here to say. She clasped her hands, trembling. When the video came out, Alice's confession, everything fell apart. Everyone who stood with me just disappeared. It was like the lie turned back and swallowed all of us. I leaned against the table, arms crossed. And now you want what? Closure. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. I want you to know that I'm sorry for not listening, for believing her, for ruining my life. I cut in. She flinched like the words hit her. Yes. The room went quiet. Only the rain filled the gap between us. I keep replaying that day, she said finally, her voice small. You were holding a mug. You looked confused, not guilty. But I didn't see that. I saw what I was told to see. Alice said you forced yourself on her, and I just believed it because it was easier. I said. She nodded, tears spilling now. Yeah, it was easier to believe a crying sister than to stop and question the man I married. Easier to look like I was protecting her than admit I didn't really know what was true. I didn't want to think my family could lie about something that serious. I shook my head slowly. You didn't just believe her, Scarlett. You helped her. You let your brothers drag me out like trash. You stood there and did nothing while they filmed it. Her voice broke. I was scared. Of what? The truth, I snapped. Because it sure wasn't of me. She covered her face, shoulders shaking. I've been haunted by it every day. I see your face when I try to sleep. I hear that sound, the slap over and over again. You were right there, and I didn't even ask a single question. I didn't feel satisfaction, just exhaustion, the kind that sinks into your bones and stays there. You know what's funny? I said quietly. Everyone told me to move on, that the truth would come out eventually. It did. But no one talks about what happens after. The truth doesn't fix the damage. It just Shows you how deep the cracks go. She looked up, eyes red. I can't forgive myself. I've tried therapy, church, everything. Nothing works. I just needed you to know that I'm sorry. I stared at her for a long time before saying, I won't forgive you, Scarlett. Not because I hate you. I don't. I just don't believe forgiveness means pretending it didn't happen. She nodded slowly. I get that. But I continued. You still have to do the right thing. If you really mean what you said, you'll make it right publicly. Not for me. I don't need it. But because you helped bury the truth, you helped destroy a man who didn't deserve it. So go fix what you can. Her lips trembled. I already have. I sent the full recording to every journalist who ever ran that story. I gave them my statement, told them exactly what I did. Good, I said. Now you get to live with that too. For a second she looked like she wanted to argue, like she thought maybe if she explained it better, I'd finally let her off the hook. But she didn't. She just nodded, quietly, accepting that there was no winning this conversation. She pulled her coat tighter and walked toward the door. Scarlett paused before leaving. You were always the better person, she said, softly, even now. I looked past her at the storm outside. No, I just learned, the hard way, that some people don't deserve another chance. She stepped out into the rain, didn't use the umbrella, just walked straight into it until her shape disappeared down the road. I watched for a moment, then turned back to my desk. My laptop was still open. The screen blinked with a pending task from a client in another city. I sat down, cracked my knuckles, and went back to work. Because life didn't pause for guilt. Not mine, not hers. And this time, I wasn't going to let anyone's tears rewrite what I'd already rebuilt. It started small. Not national, not viral, just local. Someone back home posted the video on a community Facebook group. Then it hit the town's news site. Local woman exposed for false assault allegation. No names at first, but everyone there knew exactly who it was. The video was short, blurry, and clear enough to ruin her. Alice drunk saying, he looked at me like I was nothing, so I made him nothing. The same words I'd heard months ago. I didn't upload it. I knew right away it had to be Scarlett. By morning, everyone back home was talking. Local cafes, grocery aisles, even barbershops. You could hear her name whispered like a curse. People who used to praise her were now pretending they always had doubts. The same folks who once said poor Alice were now calling her a monster. It didn't go national or hit big headlines. But back in that town, it spread like fire in dry grass. By the end of the week, Alice's world fell apart. The boutique she worked at back home quietly fired her. No post, no statement, just erased. Her fiancé, that guy with the gelled hair who used to glare at me during holidays, called off their wedding. People saw him moving his stuff out of her apartment in the middle of the night. Her mom, Eloise, got cornered. At the grocery store, someone overheard her arguing with the cashier who refused to bag her things. The lady just said, "You should be ashamed." The whole store went silent. She left everything on the belt and walked out. Her brothers weren't doing any better. Ben, the loud one, lost his job at the local high school. Parents started complaining once. The video of him dragging me out years ago resurfaced online. Not the example we want for our kids, one mom wrote on Facebook. That was all it took. He resigned. Peter's garage got spray painted twice with the word liar. He closed it the next week and moved out of town. And Scarlett, no one said much about her. She stayed out of sight. I figured she was the one who uploaded it. Maybe to set the record straight, maybe to ease her guilt. Either way, I didn't reach out. I'd already heard enough. It's weird seeing people who once looked at you like a criminal suddenly look at you like a ghost they wronged. I go into town for coffee and people would lower their voices. Some nodded, politely. Others said, "Hey, glad you're still around," like I died and come back. Not people from my past, just folks here in this harbor town who only knew the rumors secondhand. Even Mrs. Ingram, the old bakery lady who once refused to serve me, slid a bag of bread across the counter one morning and said, "This one's on me, sweetheart." No apology, no explanation, just guilt wrapped in brown paper. That night after work, I was cleaning up my desk when my phone buzzed. It was an article link someone sent from an unknown number. Headline, Alice hospitalized after overdose attempt. I just stared at it, didn't open it for a few minutes. When I finally did, the first line said she'd left a letter behind. It mentioned me by name. Said she regretted everything. Said the guilt was eating her alive. Said she never meant for it to go that far. I set my phone down and sat there for a long time. I didn't feel happy or sorry, just tired. For years I used to imagine that moment. The truth finally coming out. Her paying for what she did. Everyone realizing I wasn't the monster. But when it actually happened, it didn't feel like victory. It just felt quiet. Like the world had finally caught up to something I already knew. The truth didn't fix my life. It just stopped lying about it. I stepped outside. The air smelled like wet salt and pine. Down by the docks, the water was calm. The kind of calm that made you hear every small sound. The ropes creaking, the waves hitting the wood, the faint hum of crickets starting up for the night. I walked along the shoreline, hands in my pockets, boots, kicking at bits of driftwood. A couple of locals nodded as I passed. No one said anything. They didn't have to. Somewhere behind me, the town lights glowed faint through the fog. That small, ordinary town where everyone thought they knew the story. Now they did. I thought about Alice in that hospital bed. About Scarlett hiding somewhere with her guilt. About all the people who cheered when I was dragged out of that house. I wondered if any of them realized that an apology doesn't undo years of damage. A year passed. I didn't move away. I didn't need to. The chaos that once defined me had burned itself out. And what was left was quiet, steady, and real. The people in town had stopped whispering. Now they just nodded when they saw me. A few even came to me for help, not with gossip but with tech stuff. It started small. A guy from the dock asked if I could help him recover his hacked email. Then another wanted help taking down fake reviews. Someone was posting about his shop. Word spread fast in small towns, especially when someone actually fixes things. Before I knew it, I had a line of people who wanted me to help them clean their mess online.